What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of College Basketball Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, the number one Knicks fan in the world. And I'll be honest, I spent a lot of time asking myself, what did I want to talk about in College Basketball Weekly? It's so many things to talk about, as it always is. Do I want to talk about Duke versus Gonzaga? Do I want to talk about all of these crazy overtime games? The one with Syracuse, we had Nebraska in one yesterday. Do I want to talk about some prospects? Do I want to talk about Paulo's sweating, losing 7 pounds during games? What exactly did I want to talk about? And I kept asking myself that. And every time I would present myself with that question, Purdue would pop into my mind. I want to talk about the Purdue Boilermakers. Purdue is undefeated. I think they're going to take the reins of the number one team in the nation next week because Duke obviously lost to Ohio State once they got the reins of the number one team when they beat Gonzaga. But quickly after that, they lost to Ohio State. But even besides the rankings, take the rankings away, and just from a team perspective, going down the line for the season, because the most important thing right now, or not even right now, but just overall, is the shape of a team to compete in March. Who cares about being number one right now in December or November? Because at the end of the day, it's all about being as prepared as you can be to be able to play your best brand of basketball when it comes to March. And when I look around the league, I see a lot of great players, a lot of great teams. See a lot of good things from a lot of different teams. Especially right now, it's early. We haven't even begun to play conference basketball, which is where a lot of teams will get most teams will get their biggest competitors. You know, the Big Ten is loaded with Michigan State, Ohio State, Illinois, Nebraska can beat anybody, Purdue, Iowa can beat teams, Penn State. You're playing against your foes in your conference, and a lot of these teams are in heavy conferences. Duke, UNC, Florida State. You know, you got the SEC with Tennessee, Florida. It's just so many different conferences with loaded conferences. So when I look at Purdue, what they've done thus far, and I look at the rest of their schedule, including tournament play, I really think this is a team that can be in a conversation of entering the March Madness undefeated. Like when I look at this team from top to bottom, they're as good as it gets. They have size, which I think is one of the most important things to have in college basketball because it gives you a lot of different options to play a lot of different teams. So they have size, but within that size, they have something that's very key, which is versatility. So they can play Zach Edey, they can play Trevion Williams together, and that's a nice front court. But if you want to go, and they can also play Caleb First in that. Now that's an even bigger lineup. But then if they play a team, like hypothetically, let's say they get matched up against Gonzaga. Before the Duke and Gonzaga game even happened, after Gonzaga had beat UCLA, I made a tweet saying, man, I want to see Gonzaga play against Purdue because I think Purdue matches up with them very, very well. And I think that's because they have the size to be able to match up with a Chet and Drew Timme. But also if they win against a team like Duke, who beat Gonzaga, who maybe isn't as big in the front court, like with Chet and Drew Timme, but they can compete with a Mark Williams and a Paulo, even Trevor Keels and Jaden Ivey. That would be a good matchup. But I just love the versatility that comes with the size that Purdue has. I also love that Purdue shoots the hell out of the basketball, just overall. Now, I'm not even talking about threes or anything specific, but just straight up making the shots that they take. I got some things I had typed down. They got 6 players shooting above 60% from the field. 6 players in their rotation are shooting above 50% from the field. And they got a couple guys that are thrashing that. Zach Edey is shooting like 70%. Jaden Ivey is shooting like above 50%, like 54ish. Trevion Williams is probably shooting low 60s or high 60s. I think even Caleb First is shooting in the 60s. Like they got guys that are making majority of their shots. They're a very efficient basketball team. They're the best overall shooting team in the nation. They make more than half their shots. they're taking 30 shots a game. They're making 17 of them. They're a very, very, very good oiled machine when it comes to shooting. They're second in 2-point shooting at 61%. So if they take 10 2-pointers, they're making 6 of them. Incredible. Second in threes at 44%. They're second in scoring at 92 points per game. I just can't talk enough. And then on the defensive side of the ball, like I said, the versatility helps. Jaden Ivey is super aggressive on the perimeter. They got Stefanovic, Trevion Williams, Caleb Furst, Brandon Newman. I really like this Purdue team. And because of the size that they have in the front court, because of the shot-making ability from the three-point range, because they're efficient, because they rebound the ball well, and because they have options, which I think is one of the most elite things to have, whether it's college basketball, NBA, even high school basketball. In today's game, where we're pushing the boundaries of positionless basketball, perimeter-centric basketball, fast-paced, three-point shooting, to have options is the deadliest thing you can have on a basketball team. To be able to mix, and match, depending on who you're playing, how you're playing, and when you're playing, to me is one of the most secretive weapons you can have in your arsenal. So if you're playing against a slow, grinded out, muscular, big front court team, Purdue can do that, and they can keep up and they can play that game very well. If you're playing small and you want to push the pace, Purdue, Trevion Williams I've seen them do it. Go to the bench. They put Furst at the power forward. Stefanovic at the 2 or 1 with Jaden Ivey, Brandon Newman at the 3, whatever, and they can run and gun. They're going to be efficient. They're going to force turnovers, get out and run. They're going to rebound the ball well. I just don't see a lot of flaws in this Purdue team. And again, it comes from the versatility. And I'm really a believer. I always say to people, before I even finish that statement, I always say to people, I think it's best, me personally, for a team to get a loss or two before entering March. I never like teams that are going into the tournament that have no experience at all with losing. I think that's a dangerous game to play, just because you want your team to face some type of adversity. You want them to understand the magnitude of losing, how to deal with losing, how to come from behind. You want your team to be able to handle those type of things. And you can face those things and go through those things while being perfect. You know what I mean? Having a perfect record doesn't mean you never came from behind. It doesn't mean you almost lost or whatever. But you just want your team to really understand the feeling of losing. Because when you get to March, it's win or go home on any given night. And you don't want to take that for granted. And I sometimes feel like teams that are undefeated kind of think that they can play with this switch or flip on the back. So I think the best thing that could happen for Purdue is for them to maybe go into tournament play and maybe lose to a Michigan State where they were the favorite to win. Maybe they lose to a Penn State because Penn State gets hot one night, or maybe they lose to Nebraska because Bryce McGowan's has a monsters games. I think they would benefit a lot from that. But me, based on what I've seen from this team, because I have seen them play, they've had some very impressive wins. They beat North Carolina. They beat the Villanova team. When I've seen them play, and when I look at the rest of the schedule and who they're going to play, even when it becomes tournament time or conference time, I really don't see teams that could fuck with them. You know what I mean? That's the best way I could put it. I really don't see teams that can fuck with them. So Purdue is a team that I wanted to come in here and talk about because, again, a lot of people have asked me a lot of different questions on what are teams that I see, who do I really like. Somebody asked me, like, man, after the Gonzaga win, is there anybody that can beat Gonzaga? I'm like, man, I truly feel and believe that Purdue can beat a Gonzaga team. And I think Purdue is the best team in college basketball from top to bottom. You know what I mean? I know Gonzaga had the year that they had last year. Jalen Suggs is in the league. Drew Timme, National Player of the Year. Chet Holmgren in conversation for number 1 Player of the Year. They're sexy, they're known, they're popular. But from a basketball perspective, when you look at Purdue top to bottom, it's not many flaws, man. It's not many flaws. I love teams that rebound. I love teams that share and pass the basketball. And I love teams that take advantage of every possession that they get. And when you shoot the ball the way that Purdue does, from 3, from the field, from the free throw line, they value the possessions that they get and they take advantage of them. And that's how they put a lot of teams on under the floor. So that's a team that I really wanted to talk about. Another team I wanted to talk about was Arizona. Arizona, again, kind of like Purdue, but even to a lesser degree, not a team with a National Player of the Year candidate. You know, Matherin is a draft prospect, but he isn't anybody that's top 5 consideration or that's ringing bells all around. You have to be in the know to know Benedict Matherin as well as he's played. But again, this is a team like Purdue that has some good qualities about them. First and foremost, their front court is amazing. Their front court is where they get a lot of their points. And again, they get to the free throw line. They rebound the ball. They're one of the top teams in assists in the nation. They share the ball very well. They protect their rim with their 2 bigs. I think they average. They're third in blocks. They average around 7 blocks a game. And then they score the ball well, just like Purdue. They're at 91 points per game. You know what I mean? And it comes based off their front court. They don't shoot the ball as efficient from the field or from 3 as Purdue, but they get to the free throw line. They rebound the ball insanely well. And then they share the ball. They're one of the top teams, like I said, in assists. And I think they're an under the radar team who I'm not giving too much praise. I don't want to give too much praise like I did with Purdue, because I still have to see some things with Arizona. I can't wait till they start to play conference play, because they have a USC team that's undefeated that'll be in their conference. And whenever those teams meet, that's going to be a very good game to watch and see how they handle it. I also want to see Arizona go against the UCLAs of the world along with the USCs. But Arizona is a team that's on my radar with that front court. Also with Benedict Matherin. Again, with how they play basketball, get up and down, score a lot of points, passing the ball and sharing it. I really like what they've done this year. And they're a quietly undefeated team that's just taking care of business, beating the people that they play, and getting themselves prepared for conference play. That's one of the reasons I was a little disappointed with Nebraska losing their overtime game against NC State, is because conference play is going to be extremely tough, because you're going to play a lot of good teams when you're in those power conferences. And for Nebraska to already have 3 losses before we've even gotten to conference time is going to be tough, because Nebraska is probably going to get more than a few losses in the conference. You know what I mean? Ohio State is better as of right now. Michigan State is better as of right now. Michigan is better as of right now. Purdue is better. Illinois is better. Iowa could beat them and it's probably better. That's 6 teams that are already, better than you. So you want to be like a Arizona, who you're playing in a power conference, but you have your losses limited. And I think the fact that Nebraska has gotten down to a 5-3 start, I believe it is. And that, to me, they're better than that start. They're better than that start. They've had a 1-point loss. They lost to Western Illinois on opening night, I believe. They had a 4 overtime game last night against NC State that I think they should have won, and had a few chances and opportunities to win. So I love the fact that USC and Arizona are both undefeated already, and making sure that they get their wins early before we get to conference play, because it's going to be a true battle. Now, after talking about the teams that I have eye on, a couple different things, I want to talk about some prospects that I want you guys to watch. We talked about some on the first episode of College Basketball Weekly before the season even started, prospect watch list. Those were names that you guys already know. Some guys that are making some noise that are maybe not the top NBA prospect names, but even if you're not looking at it from a NBA prospect watch list thing, but just good college basketball players who have been extremely exciting. Hung Jung Lee from Davidson. The other day he had 32 and 14. I think 6 made three-point shots. This dude, another game he had against East Carolina, he had 25 and 10 with 5 3-point shots made. He's a guy that's shooting 50, 40, and 90 for Davidson. I don't know what they do at Davidson, from Steph Curry to Keelan Grady to now Hung Jung Lee. Something in the Davidson water is birthing some phenomenal shooters, and this guy only has tremendous size at 6'7", obviously 50, 40, 90, lights out shooter, and he's doing his thing, rebounding the ball very well. This is a guy that, that is making some noise. Shout out to my boy Albert. He has been talking highly of this dude for a while now. Shout out to my guy Al. But yeah, Hong Jung Lee is definitely an exciting guy to watch in the college basketball realm, but he's also a guy that I think is an interesting draft prospect, right? Not obviously probably a top 10 pick or anything like that, but if he was to, dabble in the draft circuit or enter his name into the draft, the draft, it would be interesting to see his range, where he could go, and what type of NBA prospect he would be, and how much value they would put into him being 50, 40, 90 with the size that he does have. Another name that I've liked out of the gate, Marcus Sasser. I remember the first game of the season, he had an incredible performance in their first game, and I text my dad like, man, this dude is legit. I love the way he moves around. I love his elite shot making. He shoots the 3-ball very flawlessly, and he's the engine of Houston. Like, I think they have maybe 1 or 2 losses, or maybe 1 loss on a year. And that game, he had like 11 points. But when Marcus Sasser is coming out and he's scoring, good things are going to happen for Houston. 40% three-point shooter. He's had a few 20-point games. I think he had 26 or 25 the other night. Had a 25-point game before that. And I think the first game of the season, he had around 26, 27 points. Marcus Sasser is electrifying, and I think he's going to be a guy in March that's going to get a lot of fandom. A lot of people are obviously going to watch more college basketball closer to March, and I think when they see Houston play, they're going to be like, yo, this dude is crazy. Crazy quick with the handle, can shoot it off the catch, shoot it off the dribble, and then is electrifying. When he gets hot, he can fill it up quick. So Marcus Sasser, Houston, make sure y'all tuning in. Another guy under the radar, nothing crazy, but just a guy I've been liking for a few years. And this year, I tuned into a couple games, and I really seen him really doing his thing. But Jared Rhoden from Seton Hall, he came in to that Seton Hall team when they had, Miles Powell and Mamu. So I remember seeing him in his early years, and he was a cool, solid guy. But this year, I think he had like 29 on Ohio State, which was a tough loss for them, but it was a very good game. He had like 21 against Cal. I think last game or so he had like 25 or 26. No, excuse me. I'm sorry. 21 against Cal. And in the last couple games, he had like 16 and 17. But a very good mid-range shooter. Got to see that three-point shot fall a little bit more as far as the NBA is concerned. He's going to have to be a better three-point shooter. But I like his size. I like how he gets to his spots. And I like his shot-making ability. Can make it off the dribble. Shoot over people. Contested mid-range shots. Don't want to put out the DeMar DeRozan type thing because he doesn't have that type of athleticism. But I think when it comes to shot making and that mid-range spot, he really does his thing. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, against the Ohio State game, he made a lot of contested mid-range jump shots that impressed me a lot. So I want to continue to see him take that momentum into being Seton Hall's scorer. And I want to see him make a lot more, three-point shots playing with Kadari Richardson. I think he can play off of him, catch and shoot threes, and that'll only elevate his draft stock because in this league, as far as NBA goes, you have to be able to catch and shoot from three-point range. You just have to. It's just an arsenal that you have to have. Michael DeVoe, Georgia Tech. I mean, what do I say? Last night, I believe against Wisconsin, he had 33 points, looking like another knockoff version of D'Angelo Russell. I believe they lost the Wisconsin game, which was tough because he did everything that he could. Earlier this season, like a week or so ago, he had 37. And a win against Georgia, again, same thing, just lefty, smooth, 6'5", good size. Plays, I'm not comparing him to D'Angelo Russell, but he has a D'Angelo Russell type feel where it's just very smooth, just very effortless jump shot. And when he's going, it's ugly for whoever Georgia Tech is playing, man. It is extremely ugly for whoever Georgia Tech is playing. Upperclassmen making a lot of noise. My boy Rashad Phillips has been high on Michael DeVoe for a very long time now, and he's been talking highly of him. So it's good to see others talking and paying attention to him now. And I think he could be a guy that, come draft time, teams are going to like because we're starting to see upperclassmen come in and contribute from day one, especially at that guard position. And if he can continue his shot making off the dribble, off the catch, good things are going to happen for him come June time when teams are drafting. So Michael DeVoe, Georgia Tech. And then last but not least, A.J. Green, Northern Iowa. The shooting display he put on against St. Bonaventure and that upset win that they had was magnificent. I mean, he put the team on his back in that first half and was lights out. Just unstoppable. I'm talking contested threes, step back threes, off the catch, off the dribble, just literally keeping his team in it. And then the next thing you know, they extended and going into the halftime with a double-digit lead. St. Bonaventure, being the good team that they are, obviously fought back. And then in the second half, wasn't as explosive or lights out as he was in the first half, but he made enough shots to be able to pull it out for his team and save the day. And that's ultimately what you want to see. Like I said, I think he had 35 against St. Bonaventure. And then they played another game against Bradley where he had 30 points. Did a similar thing down the stretch, though. Really put his backpack on. A lot of shot making, side steps, just shooting right over and in front of people, kind of reminiscent of Jimmer Fredette. But just wasn't enough. Just wasn't enough. He even came down, got in the mid-range game, tied the ball game up, but Bradley came down and won the game 71-69, I believe. But those are 5, maybe not the biggest, most popular names, but those are 5 guys that if I were you guys, I would tune into, or at least check out some of those games that I mentioned if you can, find the highlights or something. But yeah, another episode of College Basketball Weekly in the wraps. I hope this is something that helped you guys. I know a lot of y'all like Purdue. I know a lot of people that like Purdue, so y'all going to be happy to hear me talk positively about them. Whoever y'all teams are that y'all think could beat Purdue, y'all let me know. Let me know if I'm crazy, and let me know who y'all watching, and communicate in the comments some other people that you think some of my viewers should be watching and getting familiar with. As always, I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug. I love you guys. This is College Basketball Weekly. I will see you next time. Peace!